Okay, so first a little cheers for Ericsson. So why in the world is a telco equipment maker or communications equipment making company going into the Hollywood film business?
Yeah, good question. My bosses are probably out there asking that same question, but I mean, we didn't make the film. We actually we're the co-collaborator or the executive producer.
So
or
you merely paid for
the
it.
Sponsor. We paid for some of it, I would say, is accurate. And it's a young film company in Stockholm that we work with on other projects. And you know, like lots of companies, we like to use film to tell our story. But more and more, we realize that allowing a story to be told is a really good idea. And our customers appreciate that. Our partners appreciate that. So this was an idea that we worked with House of Redan, who are the young film company behind this, to let the story be told, to imbue. And we like it. It's been great for us. We've met new people, and we've learned a lot by looking back as well as looking forward.
You know, one of the things that's funny, I noticed that it's a testimony to the power of media, that rolling that film silenced a bunch of people over at a bar having rather maybe too much fun in a way that people talking, you know, they were perfectly willing, but wow, media comes on and everybody gets a little quiet. And I mean, is there something happening?
For this crowd as well. I mean, you said earlier we can't play the full film. But you know, our goal again is we want to allow a story to be told. We want to learn. We want to share. The film company wants to have their work. You know, they want to have credit for what they've done. They don't want to make money, but they want to win an award. They want to take it to Sundance. They want to take it to other places. But I think when we were coming to Monaco, we said this is a perfect place to show it, because if we could show the full version this year, we would have, because this is a crowd that I think really appreciates what this film is about.
I'm going to jump the gun a little bit and go to Gerd. We had a little kind of one of the themes of this movie, you know, is big publishing or big media kind of dead? And you know, I mean, what is a movie? Is a movie big media by definition now, in your mind? Or I mean, obviously this costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to make. Is it big media? What is this? What did we just see?
Well, you know, I think if we take back a step and ask our publishers are going to be that let's talk about creators first, right? This is what the movie is showing, right? Basically, what's happening because of technology, creators are becoming more important, not less, right? Because after all, we're not into machines, we're into humans, right? And art isn't currently made by machines, with some exceptions, of course. So basically, I think what we're seeing here, this is why the message is important, is that why sort of the industry is becoming democratized. Essentially, I think artists are becoming more valuable, more powerful going forward because of that process, right?
Would you consider this to be big media, small media, in between me? What is this?
Well, I hope it becomes big, but I think the message is important, not so much the movie maybe, but the message.
Is big about what's popular, or what is big about input or outcome?
Well, I think big is defined as relevant now, right? I mean, basically, we all have things relevant to us that may be small, but they're big to us, right? So it's a relative factor, right? I think this is crucial when you talk about media. It may be totally important and a hit for me, but it's nothing to somebody else.
Dwight, let me ask you this. Branded content is this is, in effect, branded content. I mean, it's content, it's very heavy content.
Subtly
it's
branded.
It's subtly branded, but there's this thing at the end that says Ericsson, boom. And I think it already got mentioned it went by earlier this evening. I mean, would you guys rather do this than have a TV show about creativity sponsored by Ericsson?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a great question. And I think, as I said, we haven't stopped doing a lot of the marketing that we do, the traditional things we do. Go to our customers, tell them this is our product, this is how it helps you. That is still something that we do, and I guess we'll do that for some time. But I can say this film and other films, and Gerd, and there's other people in this room that have been involved in things we've done, like 2020, and Jeff Cole is sitting in the front, where we allow the story to be told by other people.
Yeah, well, 2020 is, I think you've got Madonna running around in Africa for you or something.
That's another project.
But anyway, I mean, here's a fun question. I mean, you know, if you go to the Ericsson website right now, one would think you went to the Ericsson website and you'd see pictures of, I don't know, boxes and wires and stuff like that. And actually you go there and it's all this, it's content. I mean, it's a content site. It probably has significant traffic even. And I mean, that's probably a goal.
Yeah, more and more. And again, hopefully we're listening, because we're not the only ones that you want to hear from, that customers want to hear from, that media want to hear from. It's okay for us to let the story be told by somebody else. And, you know, we have an opinion too, and that's in there.
Let's roll the second one just for fun.
After about permission marketing, I really felt uncomfortable about writing again. I was sort of done. And Malcolm Gladwell sent me a copy of The Tipping Point to write a blurb for on the back. And I read it, and it unlocked something in my head that I didn't know was there. And it only took me 10 or 12 days to write a whole book that he had started in my head, a book called Unleashing the Idea Virus. And I finished the book, and I looked at it, and it's all about how ideas spread. And I said, now what am I going to do with it? Because it says ideas that are free spread faster, and ideas that spread win. So I went to my publisher. Now, I had just had a New York Times bestseller a year earlier, and I said, here's my next book. You can publish it, but I need it to come out right away, and I want to give it away online for free. And my publisher's boss said,
Great, we'd love to publish it, but you can't give it away for free, and we're going to have it out in a year.
So I decided to put my money where my mouth is, and I just posted the ebook online. And the first day, 3,000 people downloaded it, which is not a lot. But then it was 6,000, and then it was 12,000, and then it was 1 million. And now, if you count pass along, it's 5 million. With just me, a laptop, and the internet. 5 million people. So people say, well, how do you make any money doing that? And I said, well, first of all, I wasn't trying to make money. I was trying to make a point. And I did make a point. Ideas that spread win. But then an interesting thing happened. People started emailing me saying, I like this, but I don't want to read it on the screen. So we quickly self-published an edition, which isn't difficult at all. You call one person, and they print the book for you. And we put it on Amazon for $40. This is in, the year 2000 or something. $40, which is insane for a 200-page hardcover. And it went to number 5 on their bestseller list. And then someone translated it into Japanese, and it went to number 4. And it got translated into all these languages. I made more money from the book I gave away than the book I had sold. And the lesson there for me is not that this is a good way to make money, but the lesson is this changes everything. The industry is dead.
Okay, so Gerd, you're in this business of having opinions. Is the publishing industry dead?
No, the publishing industry isn't dead. It's all about having an audience, right? I mean, basically, I could say yes or no in a way. Probably
Anybody
both,
can always
right?
say yes or no.
Yes. I think it's about having an audience. I mean, obviously, Seth Godin has an audience, so he can sell direct, right? And that works. But I think having an audience is where it all starts, right? So that's what you need the publisher for. But maybe in some cases, I think the deal is changing because you may not need it for the same thing. I think distribution as an item of power is overrated, especially when we go into electronic distribution. We may not need the same kind of services. So that not, but different would be my summary.
Okay, I mean, but distribution controls, I mean, lots of channels, lots of media, lots of people in this room are working for companies that control distribution pretty. In fact, I mean, we've got our very next session, we're battling against various forces that suddenly decided to take a clip offline. I mean, is the balance changing? I mean, is Seth Godin talking about a world that's a nice, kind of fun, can work if you're as clever as Seth Godin world, but if you're actually just Joe Writer, you really do need big publishing company or big record company behind you to push?
Well, we're going from a copy economy to the access economy, clearly. I mean, you can see that, okay, many of us are buying copies, DVDs, CDs, and books, but in general, we're moving towards digital access to something, right? So when you have digital access, meaning bundles, flat rates, subscriptions, packages, all these things, do you really need distribution in the old way? You don't. But of course, in many cases, it's not here already. So we need to actually make time, generate a runway to get to that point. I think that the view of sort of, everybody's looking for a yes or no answer, which I think ultimately I would answer the Indian way. It depends. You shake your head. It may work here, may work there, but there's no recipe for this.
Do we have any content producers out there who have opinions about, say, subscription versus ownership in media? Here.
You said Godin had an audience. He has a name, and it's personal branding.
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, this is what I was saying. If you have an audience, you can think about selling direct and going direct. I mean, if you're Radiohead, you can do that as well, right? It's been tried many different ways. If you don't have if you don't have an audience, you have to create one. And I think that's where middlemen come in, to create audience and to curate that audience, right? So what that means for the relationship, I think basically that sort of ownership model is probably ending, right? But you do have to provide that service. I mean, ultimately, in a fragmenting society, you need a fragmented approach as well. So that's one of the challenges. I think that if you're looking at superstar authors, of course, you know, they have a way of doing this. I think going forward, it'll be more about hits in the niches.
Hi, quick question. If publishers were the previous or the historic organizers and curators of audiences, who do you see as the new organizers and curators of audiences? Because then you got a book.
Well, I wouldn't say that publishers are not going to be in the future of that process, right? But I think, I mean, in a way, like on Facebook, we are the curators of other people's content. In fact, you could say we are the program of Facebook, right? If Facebook was a TV show, we'd be the actors in a way, right? I mean, we are the content of Facebook. And we're also curating each other on Twitter, right? So basically, the programming is done by people, but ultimately, it's a combination of the two, of all of that, right? It's not either or, right? So it'll probably be both. The question is, in terms of monetizing, clearly we know already from the 700,000 zettabyte of information on the internet, 85% is generated by users. And I don't mean copied from others, I mean generated, right? So clearly, I sometimes say data is the new oil. Like clearly, all that data that we generate creates content and becomes meta content, becomes content on its own, right? So that question is basically, yes, there'll be curation by publishers, by experts, by users, by myself, by people who are network with us, all of that at the same time, right? In my view, it does not diminish the role of the experts. The opposite. It changes the business model of the experts, yeah. But there's a big role for them.
Okay, we got a question here.
Thank you for this. It's very inspiring, and I think that idea is actually quite contagious. It may seem obvious when you talk about content, because in a way content is abstract and you can distribute it through the internet quite easily. But that idea, if you think about it, is true also for cars. I don't know, in London, for example, you have a company called Zipcar. And it's not about owning a car, it's about being part of a club and sharing and paying as you go. And you can think that a lot of industry are going to be disrupted by that notion of ownership is not something that the new generation is really caring about.
Well, you know, I've worked in the music business for a long time, and clearly we're going from the idea of ownership to the idea of usage. It's just like the cars, right? We don't have to own the car to use it, we just pay. And music, if you look at Spotify and Simfy and Morg and all this, we don't have to own it, right? We can access it and we can make payments through others or ourselves. We can have payments through proxies, you know, advertising, it's called advertising, payment through proxies, right? So basically that's the same process. We have to go from ownership to usage, because that's the model that's going to express most of the value going forward, right? Because creating physical copies of things, or even digital like iTunes does, right, does not cover more than 2% of the population, basically.
We got one here.
Hi, I founded a production company. Yeah, founded a company called the Atlantic Group, and it's in LA and London 8 years ago. Small company, and all about doing the things we're talking about, which is empowering artists, different revenue models. We don't produce anything physically. It's all digital. Then when an artist, whether it's a music artist or a film, and the example I'm going to use, becomes big enough, we will then do a licensing deal to someone to produce a CD or a DVD or whatever. Now, one example, we released a documentary film online in 2007, which got enough traction to get nominated for an Emmy. That was a paid-for model. We built a small transactional website. We sold 35,000 DVDs at like $5.99. Made not a lot of money, but a little bit of money. Not Seth Godin proportions of credibility, but some credibility. We then did the sequel. We launched the sequel film on YouTube for free. We were one of the first, thanks to Patrick Walker, who helped us, who I think is here. We actually were one of the first to have a feature-length, it was a 90-minute documentary released on YouTube in HD. 300,000 views, 4.5 stars out of 5 rating. So it's like 500 cinemas, 600 cinema equivalent. Now I think it's 380,000 views now. we've made on the rev share about $187. Now, we probably haven't been smart enough in terms of, I agree with you. I think it's what we need to do really in the next phase, and if you're a larger corp company, you have this sort of maybe skills and resources to build a subscription business around that or something else. The theme of this particular documentary was relationships. So it's we've debated, do we build sort of an entire interactive platform around this and then charge people? But I guess where this is going to is actually a question, which is, well, in the music industry, as you know, I've seen on panel before very insightful comments, the digital increase was not even close to making up for the gap of the physical decrease. And I'm wondering whether, where you're sitting now, do you think it's going to be any better for video or film entertainment? Or do you have to be a very big established brand in order to be able to make the two ends meet?
Okay, two answers to that. Of course, first, if you make $1 billion a year, then 100,000 looks paltry to you, right? So making up for the difference is the bloated CD business
but I think
you're
he said
talking about.
$187.
Yeah, no. But I mean, in general, that is the problem of the music business, the inflated part of the CD business, right, that we're comparing against. That's one thing. The other thing is that we have to keep in mind we weren't really connected on the internet in the same way that we're starting to be now, right? Basically 1.8 billion people connected, 500 million or so on broadband. Now it's going to be 4.4 billion people on mobile phones, right? So broadband mobile, we're talking about a whole new development as far as the users go. And then, of course, advertisers haven't really panned out in the last 7 years. They're just this year starting to shift money. I mean, we're talking about a pot of $600 billion that's shifting towards the funds that weren't there. So one of the problems was, of course, content is also always paid by advertising. And the advertisers weren't there until just now because of mobile.
So are the Ericssons of the world the new Medicis? I mean, is this Dwight, the new prince, and he's the guy that gets to say, Gerd, you get to get a gig doing a movie, and somebody else doesn't? Is that?
No, I don't think. At least we're not that far along in our thinking yet. But I mean, it's been fun. It's been, at least for us, it's been a different way. We've learned a lot. And if you're interested, go follow the project, presspauseplay.com. You can come to Ericsson.com and find it too. It's playing. We have a 20-minute version playing here, which is as much as we can play without offending.
That's right.
the
Yeah,
film
I forgot to mention. There's a 20-minute version. If anybody's curious, upstairs next to where we had the cocktails,
Exactly.
you'll see some signage up there for Press Pause Display. You can just go hang out. It's looped on a 20-minute thing. And oops, we do have one more question. So let's just do it.
A couple things. Richard Cooperstein, Media Investment Group. On your plans with the film, you may have already discussed this, but what's your distribution strategy vis-a-vis what's your purpose? What are you trying to get out of it? And where are you going to put it? So that's my first thing. And then that's the question part. And then I just had something to say about sort of the industry in general. I used to work within the major motion studio companies, most prominently the Walt Disney Company and also Viacom and Paramount.
And you want to invest in this?
No, I don't, because investing in any one individual film is probably the worst single investment you can make. So what I would like to know, though, and what I'd actually like to mention is the business models are evolving. And the whole notion of where do you put your film and how do you maximize the value is sort of that $6 million question or $6 billion question, because people have talked about, all these different ubiquitous screens and all the new windowing that's available. But, in the digital world, things are moving to a place where one day, you will buy a motion picture once, or you will buy a piece of content once, and you will be able to consume it in whatever form you want. But today, the studios still, sort of commend themselves as being pretty much the only place where they can get the consumer to pay multiple times for the same thing. So they get advertisers to pay for it in television. They get people to buy it on a DVD. They get people to pay for it on their iPad. They pay a subscription with their cable. They go to the movie theater for it. So it's really, really kind of a interesting dynamic, and the world is moving to an interesting place. And I would actually love to see, notwithstanding David's example, I'd love to see some high quality content take the chances that the book author did and say, okay, I'm going to put out maybe not a high def quality motion picture, but we're going to put it out there in some form, let people consume it and say, okay, if you want to buy it in the most pristine form, go watch it first, and if you want it in the best quality, buy it, and then you can take it with you. And it'd be interesting to see how it went. But back to the real question on what you guys are trying to do, because it was really interesting to me to think that you guys are now backing this kind of stuff. What do you want to get out of it, and what's your distribution strategy?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd start by saying I was sitting with a couple of colleagues here in the front row that are I'm from Tandberg Television originally, which was an acquisition that Ericsson made three or 4 years ago, and we're pretty passionate about TV, about 3D TV, where we have made a lot of advancements. HD TV, we're a pioneer in that field. So we love film, and as I said earlier, we like to use it as a medium to tell stories. I can tell you what the distribution plans are, but they're not our plans. They're the plans of the film company. Around March, it will go on YouTube for free. If you want to make a donation to the film company, that's possible. Ericsson has no plans to make 1 penny off the film, but it will be given away by the film company for free at that point. So I think our goal and their goal is slightly different. We agree on the project. We're passionate about the project. We have a bit of a different goal. They would, of course, like to win or at least be recognized at or many film festivals. They want to, of course, the democratization comes in play for them as well. They would like to see people watch this, and that's their goal. I think for us, it's more we want to spark the conversation. As Spencer said earlier, why is Ericsson doing this? We want people to understand that we have a business beyond just providing voice and data to telcos, and we're in that business today in a big way. So I think we have a bit of a diversion in terms of what we see from the project.
Maybe a short comment on this. I think, I don't work with Ericsson very often, but I contributed to the movie. I think that basically what we're seeing is that a lot of people are going to start buying people's or companies' brands, not because of the product, but of what the company stands for. So I think this is a part of this whole idea of Ericsson, is to stand for something, right? To stand for innovation, for driving things forward. So that's why I think it's a good idea. And I think we're going to see that across the board pretty much everywhere. And we are seeing that. Remember BMWfilms.com, right? 5 years ago? Same idea. We're going to see a lot of this in the future. People buy company stuff because what they stand for.
Well, I guess there's a way of it's Ericsson giving back for the fine profits you've made over the years, carrying media. It's your way of doing something, Brett. So anyway, thanks very much, guys. Everybody, go check the movie. Go to Sundance, vote for it, be on the jury, give it a prize, and thanks again.